There are moments in life when you begin to sense that something inside you is shifting. You can't quite explain it to others, and sometimes you can't even fully understand it yourself. It feels as though an invisible current is carrying you forward, pulling you away from who you used to be and guiding you toward a new, more powerful version of yourself. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, spent much of his life studying the patterns of the human soul. He believed that each person moves through phases of transformation, and when the right signs appear, it means you're entering what might be the most powerful stage of your life. This stage is not about external success alone, but about the deep alignment of your inner world with the life you're meant to live. When we talk about power in this sense, it's not about dominance, control, or the ability to manipulate others. Jung saw true power as an awakening of the self, the moment when your conscious mind and unconscious patterns begin to integrate. It is the phase when your inner contradictions no longer tear you apart, but instead feed your growth. It's the time when the masks you once wore start falling away, and you begin to live with authenticity, clarity, and a sense of purpose that feels undeniable. The journey toward this powerful phase is not always easy. In fact, it often begins with struggle, confusion, or even suffering. But those challenges are signs in disguise, pointing you toward a deeper transformation. You may have noticed that life has been giving you subtle signals. Perhaps you no longer find joy in the same distractions that used to entertain you. Maybe you've started questioning relationships, habits, or careers that once felt comfortable but now feel suffocating. These are not accidents. Jung would say they are archetypal forces stirring within you, part of the natural process of individuation. Individuation, in Jung's language, is the journey of becoming who you truly are beneath all the layers of conditioning, expectation, and fear. And when you begin to notice these signs, it's a strong indicator that you're stepping into the threshold of your most powerful life phase. One of the first signs you might notice is a growing discomfort with living a life that doesn't feel true to you. It's as though the mask you've worn for years suddenly becomes too heavy, too suffocating to keep up. Jung referred to this mask as the persona, the version of yourself you project to fit into society. For a while, this persona can help you navigate the world, but eventually it begins to crack if it doesn't align with your deeper self. You might find yourself questioning why you pretend to enjoy certain things, why you say yes when you want to say no, or why you've been chasing goals that don't actually make you happy. This discomfort, though painful, is a sign of awakening. It's your psyche telling you that the old ways are no longer sustainable. The cracks in the mask are not signs of failure. They're signs that your authentic self is demanding to be seen. As you begin to feel this inner dissonance, another sign emerges: the sudden desire for solitude. Where you once felt the need to be constantly surrounded by noise, people, and distraction, you now crave quiet. You may notice that you prefer spending time alone rather than in crowds, that you'd rather sit in reflection than engage in shallow conversations. To some, this might feel like isolation, but Jung would say it is the soul's way of creating space for transformation. Solitude allows the unconscious to rise to the surface. It gives you the silence to hear the whispers of your intuition. And though others may not understand your withdrawal, it is often during these moments of quiet that you begin to gather the strength that marks the beginning of a powerful new chapter. This solitude also awakens a deeper sensitivity to what is no longer aligned with your energy. You may start to notice that certain relationships feel draining, certain environments feel suffocating, or certain conversations leave you restless and unsatisfied. This awareness can be unsettling at first because it forces you to reconsider connections you once held dear. Yet, it's a vital part of the transformation. Jung observed that individuation requires the courage to step away from what is false, even if it means facing loss. When you begin to release toxic relationships or situations that keep you small, you free yourself to grow into something larger. This is not about cutting people off in anger. It's about recognizing that your soul is moving toward higher ground, and not everyone is meant to join you there. As you release what no longer serves you, you also begin to notice a stronger connection to your intuition. Decisions that once felt complicated now seem clearer, not because external circumstances have changed, but because you're listening to an inner guidance that has always been there. Jung believed that the unconscious mind holds immense wisdom, and when we learn to integrate it with our conscious awareness, life begins to unfold with greater harmony. You may experience this as a gut feeling, a quiet voice within, or even as meaningful coincidences, what Jung famously called synchronicities. These synchronicities are not random. They are the universe's way of reflecting back to you that you are aligning with your deeper path. When you begin to notice these patterns, it is a sure sign that you're entering a more powerful phase of life. Another sign that often accompanies this awakening is a reevaluation of success. You might realize that external measures, money, recognition, status, no longer carry the same weight they once did. This doesn't mean you reject ambition or achievement. Rather, it means you redefine success in a way that feels authentic to your soul. Instead of chasing what others say you should want, you begin to ask yourself what truly matters to you. Perhaps it's creating something meaningful, building deeper relationships, or living in alignment with your values. This shift is powerful because it reclaims your energy from external validation and channels it into self-defined purpose. Jung emphasized that individuation requires this inner redefinition because until you know what you truly value, you cannot fully live your own life. Alongside this shift, you may also experience a surge of creativity. Creativity, in Jung's psychology, is not limited to art, music, or writing. It is the expression of the soul in whatever form feels true. When you are entering a powerful phase of life, the creative forces within you awaken because you are less restricted by the persona and more connected to your authentic self. You might feel inspired to start new projects, explore new interests, or express yourself in ways you previously held back. This creative energy is a direct sign that you are tapping into deeper layers of your unconscious and bringing them into the light of consciousness. It's not about producing something perfect. It's about allowing your soul to breathe through expression. At the same time, entering this powerful phase often brings a heightened sense of responsibility for your own life. You no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstances, nor do you wait for others to rescue you. Instead, you begin to recognize your own agency. Jung believed that individuation requires accepting both the light and shadow within us. When you take responsibility, you stop blaming others and instead ask, how can I grow from this? What can I learn? This shift in perspective is liberating. It empowers you to shape your life, even in the face of difficulty. And this responsibility is not heavy. It is freeing because it acknowledges that you hold the power to direct your own transformation. As these signs unfold, you might also feel a deeper connection to the mysteries of life itself. Questions that once felt irrelevant now stir in your heart. You may find yourself drawn to spirituality, philosophy, or inner practices that expand your awareness. This doesn't mean you have to adopt a specific belief system. It means you start recognizing that there is more to life than the surface of things. You feel the presence of something larger. Call it the self, the unconscious, the divine, or simply life's mystery. Jung himself emphasized that the search for meaning is at the core of the human experience, and when you begin to seek this meaning, it signals a profound shift into greater power. As you begin to deepen your search for meaning, life itself starts to feel different. Ordinary experiences take on a symbolic weight. A chance encounter feels like a lesson. A dream lingers in your memory, speaking to you in images rather than words. Jung emphasized that the unconscious communicates through symbols, and when you start paying attention, you realize that your life is filled with them. This symbolic awareness is a sign that you're seeing beyond the surface of events and entering into dialogue with the deeper layers of your psyche. You begin to recognize that nothing is entirely random. Even pain, even loss, even uncertainty carries a hidden message if you're willing to interpret it. This shift in perspective makes you stronger, because instead of resisting life's challenges, you start to read them as guideposts on your path to wholeness. With this heightened awareness also comes a sense of emotional depth that you may not have experienced before. Feelings that you once tried to suppress or ignore now rise with intensity. Some of these emotions may be painful, but instead of overwhelming you, they begin to reveal their wisdom. Jung argued that our emotions are not weaknesses, but vital messengers. They show us where we are wounded, where we are longing, and where we are alive. When you embrace this emotional honesty, you stop running from yourself. You realize that vulnerability is not a flaw. It is the gateway to authenticity. And in this authenticity, you find real power, because no one can control you through shame or fear once you've accepted your full emotional landscape. As you allow yourself to feel more deeply, another sign emerges, a profound sense of compassion, not just for others, but also for yourself. In earlier stages of life, it's easy to be harsh, critical, and unforgiving toward yourself when you fail, toward others when they disappoint you. But in this new phase, you begin to understand that everyone, including yourself, is carrying unseen burdens. You no longer demand perfection. Instead, you cultivate patience, forgiveness, and empathy. This compassion doesn't make you weak. It makes you unshakably strong, because it frees you from bitterness and allows you to move forward without the weight of resentment. Jung believed that integrating the shadow, those parts of ourselves we deny or reject, naturally leads to greater compassion. When you can look at your own shadow with honesty, you can understand the shadows of others as well. This compassion extends into how you view conflict. Rather than being consumed by arguments or power struggles, you begin to see conflict as an opportunity for growth. Where you once may have fought to be right, now you seek to understand. Where you once avoided difficult conversations, now you approach them with courage and calm. This doesn't mean you tolerate mistreatment. It means you've grown strong enough not to be shaken by every disagreement. You understand that conflict is part of the human condition, and by facing it with openness, you not only resolve external issues, but also heal inner fractures. This maturity is one of the clearest signs that you've entered a more powerful phase, because it shows you're no longer controlled by ego battles. Instead, you're guided by wisdom. Alongside this inner maturity comes an increasing detachment from external judgment. You stop living to please others, not because you don't care about them, but because you care more about living in alignment with your truth. This freedom from judgment is transformative. When you stop fearing what others think, you start making choices that truly resonate with your values. You may notice that criticism no longer stings in the same way, or that praise no longer defines your worth. Jung noted that individuation requires stepping outside of collective expectations. The crowd will always have opinions, but if you let them dictate your life, you remain trapped in the persona. By letting go of this need for approval, you reclaim your power. You begin to live not as a reflection of others' desires, but as a mirror of your own authenticity. As you embody this authenticity, something else awakens within you. Resilience. Life does not stop being difficult, but your relationship to difficulty changes. Challenges no longer break you down in the same way, because you've tapped into a deeper source of strength. You know that setbacks are part of growth, that endings create space for beginnings, that pain often precedes transformation. This resilience is not about suppressing emotions or pretending to be strong. It's about trusting yourself enough to know that no matter what happens, you will find a way through. Jung believed that the psyche is inherently self-healing, and when you align with this truth, you stop fearing struggle. Instead, you see it as the soil in which your power takes root. At this stage, you also begin to notice a strange paradox. The more you grow into your own power, the less you feel the need to prove it. Earlier in life, power might have meant recognition, influence, or control. But now, you recognize that true power is quiet. It's the calm in your voice when everyone else is shouting. It's the steady hand you extend when others are trembling. It's the unshakable sense of self that doesn't need external validation to feel whole. This subtle, inward power is one of the most unmistakable signs that you are entering a transformative phase. Because once you no longer need to prove yourself, you are free to simply be yourself. And in that being, you radiate a strength that others can feel, even if they can't quite explain it. Another sign you may notice is a new relationship with time. Where you once rushed, chased, and constantly felt behind, you now find yourself more present. Jung believed that individuation brings us into closer contact with the eternal dimension of life, the sense that we are not just passing through moments, but participating in something timeless. You begin to savor experiences instead of rushing through them. You find joy in the simple, everyday details that once went unnoticed. The taste of your morning coffee, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of laughter. This presence is powerful because it grounds you. It pulls you out of the constant anxiety of past and future and anchors you in the reality of now. And the now, when lived fully, is where your true power lies. With this newfound presence, your priorities shift even further. You begin to let go of superficial desires and focus on what brings lasting fulfillment. The opinions of strangers, the constant pursuit of trends, the restless comparison to others, all of it begins to lose its grip. In its place grows a deep longing for purpose. You want your life to mean something, not just to you, but to the world around you. This doesn't necessarily mean grand achievements or global recognition. Purpose can be found in the way you raise your children, the kindness you show a stranger, the craft you dedicate yourself to, or the wisdom you pass along. Jung often said that meaning is the cure for emptiness, and when you feel this call for purpose, it's one of the clearest signs you're entering the most powerful phase of your life. And perhaps one of the most profound shifts of all is that you begin to feel at home within yourself. For much of life, people chase belonging in external places, in groups, in relationships, in accomplishments. But there comes a moment, if you're fortunate, when you realize that the home you've been searching for has always been inside you. Jung described this as the integration of the self, the point where your conscious and unconscious, your light and shadow, your inner and outer worlds finally come together in harmony. When you feel this sense of inner homecoming, loneliness doesn't frighten you, because you are never truly alone. You carry within you a completeness that cannot be taken away. This inner wholeness is perhaps the ultimate sign that you've entered the most powerful phase of life, because from this place, everything else, relationships, work, creativity, spirituality, flows with greater authenticity. This journey, though profound, is not without resistance. At times, you may feel like you're caught between two worlds, the old life that no longer fits and the new life that has not fully formed. This in-between state can be uncomfortable, but it is also sacred. It is the chrysalis stage, the moment before transformation is complete. Jung reminded us that transformation is never instant. It is a process, and the signs you notice along the way are not checkpoints to rush through, but invitations to go deeper. Each sign is a doorway, asking you to step closer to your authentic self. And the more doors you walk through, the more powerful you become. Not in a way that dominates others, but in a way that liberates your soul. As this transformation unfolds, another sign begins to make itself known. Your tolerance for inauthenticity decreases. Where once you may have overlooked dishonesty, shallow interactions, or surface-level living, now you feel an almost physical discomfort when you encounter it. This isn't about arrogance or judgment. It's simply that your soul no longer resonates with what is false. You might find that conversations lacking depth leave you drained, or that environments built on pretense feel unbearable. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is clarity. Jung understood that as you integrate the shadow and move closer to your true self, your inner compass sharpens. You no longer have the energy to waste on illusions. Instead, you seek out truth wherever it can be found. Truth in relationships, in work, in how you show up for yourself each day. This insistence on authenticity is a sign of your growing power, because it means you are aligning your life with reality, not fantasy. Closely tied to this is the experience of inner peace that begins to emerge, even in the midst of external chaos. You may notice that situations which once triggered anger, fear, or insecurity now have less power over you. It's not that you've stopped caring, but that you've gained a broader perspective. You see the temporary nature of difficulties, the cycles of growth that every challenge brings, and the futility of clinging to control. Jung often emphasized that true wholeness includes embracing opposites, light and dark, joy and pain, chaos and order. When you internalize this truth, you stop resisting the natural flow of life, and in that acceptance, peace begins to grow. It is not the fragile peace of avoidance, but the resilient peace of understanding. And when peace becomes your ground state, it is a clear indication that you're living from a deeper power. Another sign of this phase is the courage to face your past without being ruled by it. Many people spend their lives haunted by old wounds, regrets, or traumas. They avoid them because they fear the pain they carry. But as you enter this powerful stage, you begin to realize that the only way to be free of the past is to confront it. Jung believed that the shadow, those hidden aspects of ourselves, must be brought into the light if we are ever to be whole. This doesn't mean reliving every painful memory, but it does mean being willing to acknowledge and integrate those parts of yourself you once denied. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin asking, "What can this teach me?" This shift transforms the past from a prison into a teacher, and once you've made peace with it, the hold it once had on you dissolves. To be free of the past, while still honoring its lessons, is one of the most powerful positions a person can ever stand in. With this courage comes a new kind of self-respect. You stop negotiating your worth with others. You stop allowing people to define your value or dictate what you deserve. Instead, you begin to see yourself with clearer eyes, not as perfect, but as inherently worthy. This self-respect manifests in boundaries, in the way you speak to yourself, and in the choices you make. Jung recognized that without self-respect, the individuation process cannot complete itself, because you cannot live as your true self if you are constantly betraying yourself for acceptance. Respecting yourself means living in alignment with your values, even when it's uncomfortable. It means saying no when something doesn't serve you, even if it disappoints others. And it means honoring your own needs, not from selfishness, but from a deep understanding that only by respecting yourself can you bring your best self to others. This strength of self-respect is unmistakably a sign of entering the most powerful phase of your life. At the same time, you may notice a shift in how you view death, endings, and impermanence. While fear of mortality is natural, as you deepen into this stage, it begins to soften. You realize that everything in life is transient. Relationships, seasons, even your own existence. Instead of causing despair, this realization awakens gratitude. Every moment becomes more precious because you understand its fragility. Jung himself wrote often about the importance of confronting mortality because it forces us to live more authentically. When you stop pretending that life is endless, you begin to prioritize what truly matters. You waste less time, take fewer things for granted, and live with greater intensity. This acceptance of impermanence is not morbid, it is liberating. It frees you from clinging from fear and from regret, allowing you to embrace life fully while it is here. Another powerful sign is the discovery of your own voice, not just in the literal sense, but in the way you express who you are to the world. For years, you may have silenced yourself to avoid judgment or rejection, but in this stage, your voice grows stronger. You feel called to speak your truth, even if it is uncomfortable, even if others don't agree. This doesn't mean shouting or forcing your opinions on others. Rather, it is a steady, confident expression of your authentic perspective. Jung believed that each individual has a unique contribution to make, a thread in the larger tapestry of humanity. Finding your voice means weaving your thread boldly, without apology. When you do this, you not only step into your own power, but also inspire others to do the same. This growing authenticity often leads to another profound shift, a deeper sense of connection with humanity as a whole. Where once your focus may have been primarily on your own struggles and desires, you now feel a broader compassion for the collective human experience. You see yourself as part of something larger, connected not just to family and friends, but to strangers, to communities, to humanity's shared journey. This sense of connection doesn't erase individuality, it expands it. Jung believed that individuation was not about isolating oneself, but about becoming fully oneself in relation to the greater whole. When you feel this sense of belonging to the wider human story, your life takes on greater meaning, and your decisions are guided not just by self-interest, but by a sense of shared responsibility. This, too, is a sign of true power, not the power to dominate, but the power to uplift and participate in something beyond yourself. Alongside this expanded connection to others, you may also notice a deepening connection to nature. The natural world begins to feel less like a backdrop to your life, and more like a living presence you are a part of. A walk in the woods, the sound of rain, the sight of a sunrise, all of these stir something inside you. Jung believed that our psyche is not separate from nature but intricately tied to it, and when we begin to heal and awaken, we naturally rediscover this bond. This connection to nature grounds you, reminding you of cycles, rhythms, and the larger flow of life. It humbles you, but it also strengthens you, because you realize you are not alone. You are part of something vast, timeless, and deeply alive. This stage also brings with it a profound trust in life itself. Where once you may have fought against circumstances, demanding certainty or control, you now begin to lean into trust. You realize that life unfolds in its own timing, often beyond your understanding, yet somehow always leading you where you need to go. This trust doesn't mean passivity. You still act, you still make choices, but you no longer panic when things don't go as planned. You see delays, detours, and disappointments as part of the journey rather than as failures. Jung often spoke of the importance of surrender, not as weakness, but as alignment with the deeper currents of life. When you cultivate this trust, you move with grace, even through uncertainty. And in that grace, you embody a power that no external circumstance can shake. As this trust in life deepens, you begin to notice something extraordinary, a sense of alignment. Things start to fall into place in ways that feel almost effortless. Opportunities appear at the right time. People enter your life when you most need them, and challenges arrive exactly when you're ready to grow from them. Jung described this experience through the idea of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal the interconnectedness of inner and outer worlds. When you live in alignment with your authentic self, life reflects that alignment back to you. It feels as if you're moving with the current rather than against it. This alignment is not always smooth or easy, but it carries a sense of rightness that is undeniable. You realize that even struggles are part of the larger pattern, and in this recognition, your sense of purpose becomes unshakable. At this stage, your relationship with fear also begins to change. Fear does not vanish. It never truly does, but it loses its grip over your choices. You recognize fear for what it is, a signal, a messenger, not a master. Where once fear held you back from pursuing dreams, speaking your truth, or stepping into the unknown, now you carry it with you, but do not let it control you. Jung believed that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it. And when you reach this powerful phase of life, you live with courage as your constant companion. You embrace new experiences, even when they scare you, because you trust in your ability to grow through them. This freedom from fear marks a profound transformation, because it opens doors you once thought were forever closed. Another sign of this phase is the emergence of integrity that runs so deep you can no longer betray yourself without feeling it immediately. Integrity becomes your compass. You may find that even small lies or compromises feel unbearable, as though your soul rejects them outright. This is because you've grown too aligned with your inner truth to tolerate self-betrayal. Living with integrity doesn't mean perfection, but it does mean consistency between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. Jung argued that the greatest suffering comes from being divided against oneself, and the greatest healing comes from unity within. Integrity is that unity in action. It gives you a calm, grounded presence that others can feel, even if they can't put it into words. And when you live this way, life feels clearer, lighter, and profoundly more powerful. You may also notice that gratitude begins to permeate your days. Not just gratitude for the obvious blessings, but gratitude for the small, ordinary moments you once overlooked. You find yourself appreciating the way sunlight filters through a window, the laughter of a friend, the comfort of silence after a long day. Gratitude shifts your perspective. It makes you less focused on what's missing and more aware of what's present. Jung believed that meaning and wholeness arise not only from grand revelations, but also from learning to see the sacred in the ordinary. Gratitude is how you practice that awareness daily. And when gratitude becomes your natural response, you radiate a quiet joy that is unmistakably powerful. This gratitude often awakens an even greater capacity for love. Not the fleeting, conditional love that depends on circumstances, but a deeper, more enduring love that flows naturally from within. You may find yourself becoming more patient, more forgiving, more open to connection. You love not because you need something in return, but because love itself feels like the truest expression of who you are. Jung saw love as one of the great forces of individuation, because it dissolves the boundaries of ego and allows us to experience unity with others and with life itself. When you embody this kind of love, you not only enrich your own life, but also transform the lives of those around you. It is one of the clearest signs that you are living from your most powerful self. Perhaps the final and most defining sign of all is the sense of freedom that emerges. Freedom not in the external sense, though that may come as well, but freedom of the soul. You feel free to be who you are without apology, free to pursue what matters without constant second-guessing, free to let go of what no longer serves you without clinging. This freedom is the culmination of all the other signs: authenticity, self-respect, resilience, trust, compassion, integrity, love. It is the state in which you are no longer bound by fear, shame, or societal expectations. Jung would say that this is the point where you are closest to the self, the wholeness that is both uniquely yours and universally human. It is the phase of life when you are not just surviving or striving, but truly living. When you look back, you realize that the journey into this powerful phase was not one moment, but a series of signs that guided you here. The discomfort with falsehood, the craving for solitude, the awakening of intuition, the reevaluation of success, the surge of creativity, the embrace of responsibility, the compassion, the resilience, the peace. All of it was leading you to this freedom. The path was not easy, and it never will be perfectly smooth, but it was always meaningful. Every sign was a reminder that you were being called to step into your fullest self. Carl Jung believed that the purpose of life is individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. To enter the most powerful phase of your life is to answer that call. It is to shed what is false, embrace what is true, and live in harmony with your own soul. And as you do, you discover that this power is not about control, but about liberation. It is not about having more, but about being more. It is the power to live authentically, love deeply, and trust life completely. And when you embody this, you not only transform yourself, you also become a light for others, showing them that their own most powerful phase is waiting, just beyond the signs they are beginning to see.